Hello everybody, welcome back to another Weather Central forecast. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. In today's forecast, we will be going over today and tomorrow's severe weather event. These do look to be able to possibly produce some decent tornadoes, so this is definitely not an event that you're going to want to take lightly. But before we do start off with this forecast, I do want to start off with a disclaimer that these forecasts are my opinion. They are based off of model guidance and past occurrences of weather. For the most accurate and up-to-date weather, please consult your local National Weather Service office, as they will have more accurate and up-to-date information than I will on these weather systems. I hope you guys do enjoy this forecast. Let's go ahead and go over to my outlook for today and tomorrow. So here is my outlook for the system. So we're going to have cold air dropping down from the north, some warm Gulf air getting injected with this system. And what that's going to do is, like I said yesterday, it's going to just spark off some severe weather for these areas. Temperature is not going to be a problem, as there will be 80s throughout these regions here, and dew points will just be very, very high. So in this red, I'm expecting a general thunderstorm risk. In these maroons is where we start to, really start to take things seriously. This is where you can see hail damage, wind damage, and some possibly isolated tornadic activity. In this purple is where you're going to be seeing that more marginal, enhanced risk of that hail and that wind damage, and tornadic activity looks to be possible. And it's a little more enhanced than the other region. And this pink here we're looking at, this is where I expect the tornadoes to occur. Obviously, the tornadoes could occur in this wide region of this maroon inside of this region right here. But I do expect the highest concentration of tornadoes to be in the Tennessee Valley right over there, in central and western Tennessee, into northeastern Alabama, or northwestern Alabama, into parts of northern Mississippi and eastern Arkansas, and extreme southeastern parts of Missouri. So that is my forecast. Let's go ahead and go over to the models. So here we are with the current temperature analysis. You can see this definitely isn't too warm, but already down into the south, we already have warm enough conditions to support these thunderstorms. Now, regions around here will get up to 80 plus degrees. So temperature, like I said, is not going to be a problem at all. Right now, we're seeing 50s in Missouri, 51 in southeastern Missouri, and we're seeing 40s up to some parts of our marginal and slight risk, which that, like I said, will definitely warm up well enough today. We're going to get these high dew points. Moving in from the Gulf, we're going to get a lot of precipitable water to really just spark off a big event with this cape as well. So let's go ahead and go over to our, analyses and our model guidance. So here we are with our bulk shear. This is going to be a factor to where these thunderstorms will line up. If that cape doesn't line up, we're going to have that shear to help out. So right now we're seeing not too much shear. We can see a high concentration, or I guess you should say the highest. It's not a very high concentration, but in the parts of Kentucky into southern West Virginia, we're going to see as this low moves, we're going to get a lot of wind shear here off to some parts of northern Missouri. And then once we move this on even more, you can see this is where we start to get our high shear into these slight risks. You can see just how, wide this shear is. And this is exceeding 70 knots. Where we get into these yellows kind of down into parts of eastern Arkansas is where we're seeing our very high shear. So that's where we could also see some of this severe weather line up with our possible tornadoes, because obviously your tornadoes and supercells are going to feed off of that wind shear as well. So we'll move this on even more. You can see these bright yellows here. That is a good indication of some very, very high shear. You can kind of see as this dry line moves, we're not seeing as much shear on the western side of this. So you can definitely see a predominant dry line here as it does move eastward, to where as that dry line moves eastward, the western side of that will not have as much shear, because obviously you're not going to be having any thunderstorms after that does move through. You can see for tomorrow we have a very high shear event for some parts of the mid-Atlantic. And you can see that makes its way off to Virginia Beach and some parts of Delaware. Throughout these regions extending up into the interior or the exterior northeast. So this shear is going to support these very strong severe thunderstorms. So let's go ahead and go over to our next model. So here we are with our surface-based cape. You can see this was the 6Z model run. So this is kind of dated. This is about 3 hours dated. But this was what it looked like 3 hours ago. You can see some cape making its way into the deep south. Move this on to approximately what is right now. This is 3 hours ahead of the 6Z model run release. You can see some CAPE making its way down into some parts of the southeast. This is where we're going to start to see our thunderstorms fire up, and that's really just going to stick around for the entire day. We're going to move this on. You can see we're getting a high concentration of CAPE into some parts of northern Louisiana here, right there, with these yellows indicating over 2,300 joules per kilogram available of convective available potential energy. Down into the southeast, we're seeing kind of an average of around 500 to just over 1,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE. Move this on. You can see this moves into some parts of Missouri. We're seeing that slight risk initiated for these areas right here. And then that kind of extends up to some parts of the Midwest. We're also seeing that slight risk and marginal risk. A good amount of CAPE available throughout parts of the deep south into the southeast, extending over 2,500 joules per kilogram. This is going to be well more than enough to support these strong thunderstorms and tornadoes. You can see it does die down, and we're going to get a surge of CAPE off to the mid-Atlantic, where we do have that slight risk issued for tomorrow. We'll move this on and see just how intense this does get. It looks like to be a very low CAPE event for some parts of the mid-Atlantic. Obviously, if the most highest concentration will be into parts of eastern North Carolina, so not expecting too much CAPE with this event, but like we showed earlier, we do have very high shear over here, so that is going to allow for these thunderstorms to develop. So here we are with our precipitable water values. You guys have heard me explain this many times over my videos. If you're above 1.2 inches to 1.4 inches, you're looking at a very heavy rain, some flash flooding possible. So we can see anywhere in these, I guess I should say browns is where we're seeing that dry line. Anywhere in these blues, we're seeing some moisture available. So there's going to be a lot of moisture going up north from the Gulf. And we're going to see already, this is where we're seeing our thunderstorms pop up right now down into the southeast and the deep south. We'll move this on. We can see that moisture tries to extend up into some parts where our slight risk was issued. You can see it's going to be a very sharp cutoff line here. So it really just depends on how far north that does go. Because like I said, on CAPE and I guess Shear was pretty decent here. But for CAPE, it was a very sharp cutoff here. So depending on where that does end up, going, will really depend on whether some parts of these, more north and western parts of these precipitable water values, what that will end up, getting based on how sharp that cutoff actually is. We can see precipitable water values of up to 1.8 down into some parts of Arkansas there, and just a general 1.4 plus throughout these areas right here. We'll move this on and see a high concentration moving into where I'm predicting the highest tornadoes will be. This is where we had that very high CAPE and very high shear lineup. So this is looking pretty decent for tornadoes into the Tennessee Valley, extending into eastern Arkansas. Move this on, you can definitely see a defined dry line here. And as that dry line moves over your area, you're not going to be seeing any sort of thunderstorms. But we can see still some high precipitable water values down into the deep south, exceeding 1.8 inches per hour. And then you can see it moves off to the east right here, approximately 48 hours out. All of your activity is going to be done for these parts of the United States, excluding some parts of Florida, where you could still see some possible pop-up thunderstorms. But that is practically about it for this precipitable water. So here we are with our dew points. You can see up to some parts of the Tennessee Valley, your humidities are very close to your actual temperatures. Some into parts of Nashville are even higher than your actual temperature. So it's going to be very humid throughout some parts of the Tennessee Valley. You can already see some dew points exceeding 60 down into the deep south, into the southeast, up into the mid-Atlantic. We are going to be seeing some precipitation for today. We'll move this on. You can see these dew points try to make its way up into Missouri. You can see some rather low dew points. That's probably why that moderate risk wasn't extended up into some parts of Missouri, extending up into the north, because you're seeing those dew points still around 50, maybe a little bit lower. You can see down into parts, I think it's Fort Smith, Arkansas. You're seeing 56 as your dew point. So that's going to be still very low compared to your actual temperature, which will be up into the 80s. So not very humid, but you will still get that precip to line up. You can see some of these dew points are higher concentrated into some parts of the southeast. That's where I'm also seeing, like I said, my highest tornado probability. You can see some dew points exceeding 70 down into some parts of Mississippi and western Alabama, into some parts of southeastern Louisiana, into some parts of the western panhandle of Florida, but still, like I said, a general 60 plus degrees as your dew point. Move this on, you can see as this dry line moves in, you're going to get a really good cutoff of these dew points here. Anywhere north, still not seeing much, but still down in the south, especially Florida, still seeing those pop-up thunderstorm probability chances, and then dew points really skyrocket downwards. So here we are with our composite reflectivity. This is basically the high-res simulated radar. You can already see right now some possible thunderstorms firing up into some parts of the Midwest. We also have some possible supercells embedded throughout these thunderstorms down here that's going to be moving north into some parts of Tennessee. You can see we have a good surge of moisture that was added on from the Gulf, and that will have, like I said, also some possible supercells embedded throughout it. But severe thunderstorms at the least. You can see we're not very zoomed into this part, but you could definitely see that there will be some high precipitation cells here that will, rain wrap tornadoes if they do occur. So this will still be very dangerous compared to 2 days ago, that event with those rain wrap tornadoes. And you can see then right here towards right here we're seeing some moisture start to move south and east. You can see some possible squall line thunderstorms extending eastward with some supercells possibly embedded throughout that. And then it moves off to the Tennessee Valley and into the Ohio Valley once again. And this will also still have some supercells possibly embedded throughout these. And then they will eventually move off to the northeast where you could see a possible snowstorm. I'm not going to be going over that, but down to some parts of the southern regions of the northeast into parts of the mid-Atlantic, you're going to be seeing thunderstorms. You can see some very high concentrations of precipitation throughout parts of the mid-Atlantic into some parts of southern New Jersey. So this is going to be something that we're going to want to watch very closely. Obviously, stay weather aware if you guys are going to be affected by this event.